Hello everybody, here we go with another video. So in the engine bay I have cleaned it up as best as I'm going to clean it up, and gotten all the grime off from everywhere, and at this point I think I am happy with the engine bay. Now a lot of people would be crying out saying, so you need to spray the engine bay or do this, do that with it. Well, for me an engine bay is functional, and as long as it's not rotting out, I am quite happy to have cleaned this out, seen what I've seen, and will use this as it is. I have touched up some areas of paint that were obviously worn away or completely, missing for whatever reason from factory. So I've tidied up those little bits, and I'm quite happy with this engine bay as it is, and I will use it like this. I'm not going to the nth degree with spray painting in here, because I don't particularly fancy doing it, to be honest. And for me, this is going to be functional in here. I may be in and out of here in the future as well, so this leaves me things to do in the future. What I don't want to end up is a car that's completely finished and then I just get bored of it. So I'm going to leave some bits to do in later years, and this may be a project we come back to, the engine bay. But for me right now, I'm happy with how this is, and this is ready for me to rebuild when the engine is, so that'll be the next major task. Okay, so underneath the arches we have been rubbing back some of the rusty areas up here, and we've got one substantial problem with these subframe mounts, in that it's completely rotted through. So I'm wondering about either plating this or replacing the whole thing. I just need to work out if these are available. They're a weld-on piece, so we would have to grind back the welds and try and knock this off, and then try our best to replace it and fit it in the right place, which we will cross the bridge if we get to it. If I can't get another one, we're just going to have to re-plate this up, weld over it, because it'll still be strong. But yeah, that's just another little job on the cards. Okay, in preparation for getting this engine on a stand, I've been removing some of the auxiliary parts. So we've got the inlet manifold off the front. This is where the throttle body sits, and the inlet manifold, various bits and bobs, so that's come off nice and easy. The oil dipstick came off nice and easy. The coil packs came off nice and easy. Now one problem is that this rocker cover has got a damaged thread for where the coil pack bolted to, so I may be on the lookout for a new one of these if we keep this engine. I've fitted an EGR delete plate just to make sure it fits and to stop any ingress, whilst I'm cleaning this engine or whatever. The exhaust manifold came off really easily. I'd soaked these in WD about 4 times before I even touched the nut. And when I came to undo them, I realised that they were actually what I would term relatively loose, a slight push on the spanner and off they came. So that's good news, I guess. There's no snap studs or anything. So that's off. The thermostat and coolant pump, there's a piece that goes on there and on there, so that's been removed. The gearbox is only held on with about 4 bolts now, so that's ready to separate. But I just haven't quite worked out without a crane. Now I may just have to end up getting a crane at last, but I haven't worked out how to get this on a stand yet. I might need to get some bolts to go through the engine stand into here as well, but bits and bobs going on. The auxiliary belt tensioner is off. The engine side bracket, which mounts to another engine mount, is off. I haven't got this off yet. I think that needs an impact wrench to get off, because at this point it's just spinning the engine, obviously. So I need an impact wrench to release this big nut on the end, I guess. Any tips on doing that, let me know. So bits and bobs are going on. Need to get this steering rack off at some point as well soon, but I may do that when the engine's off the subframe. So bits and bobs are ongoing. Cheers. So this is the passenger side, which we've rubbed back, which isn't as bad as the other side in terms of that part. It's still, you know, grotty in there, but we've rubbed it back as best I can with the tools that I've got. But again, if we're going to replace the other side and the price isn't too extortionate, I will probably get one of these for this side as well. But again, overall, underneath here, this is just, all I've done is wash this. I haven't done any treatment on this, and it's pretty clean. No major worries in the arches, so that's good. So here's an interesting one. You remember these two wires which we found in the engine bay, which we didn't know where they came to, so I pulled them through into the cabin. Look what it goes to. Somebody has fitted a makeshift immobilizer in here, which is kind of cool. At least it's nothing more sinister. The reason the wires were here, just somebody had felt the need to fit a little immobilization switch, and all it did was stop the coils firing, and so the car wouldn't start. So at least we know what that is. I'm going to remove it, and yeah, just a little interesting one. So it's the end of a lovely sunny bank holiday, and we've done a bit of work on the car as previously described, and I thought I would take this time to talk about why I'm even doing this. Because, you know, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of work that we've been doing so far, and still a lot more to go. So what is inspiring me to do this build? And I think I mentioned before that I've had a car of similar ilk to this, and so I'm going to crack open a beer and we're going to talk about my past Vauxhall Astras. Bear with. Feel free to do the same. So, the first Vauxhall Astra I had, I can't remember, it was about my third car, something like that. It was a 2002 1.6 16 valve SXI 3-door hatchback, which I bought from Redcar from a princely sum of around £7,250, something like that. So my dad drove me up to Redcar and we brought it back down, and it's going from a 1.3 Toyota to that felt like the bee's knees. Anyway, it wasn't long before we got to modifying that, and it ended up with the, I'm going to flash up some photos, we ended up with the Riga body kit, some 19-inch Fox alloys I think they were from Halfords. The Morettes probably were on it, and I think I had some Hella rear lights, stuff like that. And that stayed that way for a little bit. We did some car shows, and then a friend from the car scene got himself a coupe silver turbo edition, and he took me for a little blast in it, and I thought, I need me one of these. So very shortly after that experience, I took all the bits off the hatchback, put it up for sale, and looked for a coupe turbo, and lo and behold, in the same town, up for sale at that time, was a red coupe turbo. It had done 27,000 miles I think at the time, and that was a 51 plate, and I got that again for around 7,000, maybe a little bit less than that I think. And we started modifying that, so that went to Courtney Sport. It had the Stage 1 remap and it had the Rossi Sports cap, and it turned out about 240 brake horsepower. 247 on Courtney Sport and 243 on other dynos. And it was a brilliant car. I messed about with it, again as you may see in some photos. It got the Riga kit on it as well. It got 18-inch alloys. I don't know what they were, and it's really annoying me that I can't remember what alloys they were. This is one photo that I've got printed off of it at the time. I'll show some other ones. And I was really happy with that. It looked the way I wanted it to look. It drove how I wanted it to drive, and it was just awesome. Why did I get rid of it? Well, in the end, you know, people, I could blame a number of things. I was starting to fall out of love a bit with it, because there were some things coming up wrong with it. The drive shafts were clicking, the turbo was leaking, the clutch wasn't working quite right, and I didn't quite have the time and money to do it. I was about to get married, about to get a house, so it had to go. So it got sold. One of the great things I did with it was strip it out one summer, stripped out the interior, and we went drag racing, and we did a 14.0 quarter mile, which isn't amazing but pretty good. I've seen other VXRs and stuff like that not managing that. So yeah, it was a real fun car, good for messing about, having a blast down the lanes and stuff like that. And so that's why I've come back to it probably 12, 13, 14 years later. In the meantime, I've done racing motorbikes, which again is great fun, but that's come to an end now. I've literally just sold my race bike, which will help fund some of the stuff on this, and we're going to have some fun on four wheels, and hopefully we'll get this back on track somewhere, somehow, have fun with it on the track, maybe do some competitive sprints or something like that. I don't know if I'll be able to get to the extent of racing, full-blown racing and hill climbing and that sort of stuff, because you need roll cages and all that business. So we shall see. Hopefully we'll use it competitively some way. We'll definitely have it on track at some point, and yeah, looking forward to it. So that's my brief history of Astra ownership. And this one is obviously you know, the most I've ever gotten down with a car. I've never had an engine out, I've never stripped an engine bay to this extent, never repainted one underneath, blah blah blah. So it's actually working out, you know, if you take things step by step, and think about things a little bit, then it's not as bad as people might think. Having said that, we haven't got that part yet, which is going to be fun. But yeah, so stay tuned. That was my brief history of Astras, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with this one, just to rekindle some memories and have a bit of fun with this one. I'm trying to make it last a few years. Like I was saying earlier, I don't want to just do everything to this car and that'll be it, you know, because then I'll get bored of it. What I want is stuff to progress over time, over a number of years. So this is kind of stage 1 build of this project. And stage 2, stage 3, if you like, can let our imaginations run wild. I'm not going to do anything stupid like massive body kits or anything like that, but we could certainly look in towards either supercharging the 2.2, or we can go into swapping it out for a 2-litre turbo, that sort of idea. So, and then we may think about what we do with the interior, whether we go full-blown track spec inside, or whether we just keep it light, you know, a bit of both that I can use for the family and for tracking at some points. So we shall see. But the aim is to try and work with this engine, try and get it running right, pop it back in and get the chassis running right. That's the main aim, is to get the chassis, the brakes and everything working good. That's the main aim for step 1. Making sure it's rust free and that it drives okay, and then we can build upon that. So hopefully that's been useful. Hopefully a little bit of entertainment, perhaps. I don't know. But I know people are asking for longer videos. The reason they're not longer is that I don't always have the chance to grab my camera and when I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing. So if I'm trying to film at the same time, it just probably all go to pot. I'll try and film bits and bobs where I can, obviously, as I'm going. Especially with the engine, we'll probably do some time-lapse stuff when we're taking that apart. But yeah, stick around. Hopefully it'll get more and more interesting as we go along. And thanks for keeping with it so far. I know we've had quite a number of episodes where you know, nothing major is happening, but hopefully you get an idea. We've been on this since what, middle of February, and it's now the end of May, and probably not even halfway through yet. So that's the time scales you're looking at if you were going to do this yourself. Lockdown has actually enabled us to crack on, really, and get going. But anyway, I'll stop talking now because it's been 10 minutes. But yeah, maybe you can kind of see if we just hold that there, look. Anyway, we shall see how it ends up. Anyway, thanks for watching this one, and we'll check back in with more progress.